Denver Broncos Mile High View, no commercials, never any bullshit. And we're the channel that gets it right. We're the channel while others are complaining, while others are panicking, while others are overreacting, while others are crying in their videos, making excuses, crafting stories. We're breaking film down. So we went and broke the Texans film down. I think you had something you wanted to say before we get into the show.
I just wanted to say this before we get into the show is I want to apologize for anyone if I rubbed people the wrong way with my attitude. It's just sometimes it's just mentally frustrating when you're continuing to be told that you're wrong and you continuing to be told that, we're going to death threat you and your family and all the above and under the sun and everything you say under the sun. It's just it's mentally taxing. But as a 24-year-old, I'm continuing to learn as a person and as a man. So I apologize if I rubbed anyone the wrong way on Monday.
I think their heads exploded on Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the deal. So while everybody's coming up and crafting, excuse making and everything else, we're deep into film as always.
Yep.
But I want to do a recap on the Seattle game. I want to start off by saying that I agree with Hackett and I agree with Russell Wilson with the play designs, the way the everything that they were doing. Yes, that they had some screw ups, things I believe that can get taken care of. I believe that Sherman, former Seattle Seahawks, said something. I think it had to do with that field goal, that would-be field goal. Now it was their last drive, and we were saying, "Hey, man, this could be a Russell Wilson comeback, fourth quarter comeback." And as they were driving, you said to me, "Did you see the clock?" And then I'm like, "Yeah, I was going to say to you, see the clock?" And then Peyton Manning, he's like, in fact, turns out he's like, "Ah." The Broncos got into a situation with time before they even got to the field goal part, where they just let the clock run out. So I think Sherman got it right. I think the Broncos are going to have to let Russell Wilson be the timekeeper. What's your take on that?
Well, my take on that is you're absolutely right. Richard Sherman nailed it on the head with this whole clock management situation. A lot of people are wanting to fire Nathaniel Hackett over that. I think that's absurd, and I think that is that's the definition of toxicity. That's what me and my.
How about overreacting?
Toxicity? Because when you talk about Nathaniel Hackett, me and him really liked the offensive game plan that he came up with on Monday night. We really enjoyed what we have been saying for years and years and years the Denver Broncos should have done. So when you talk about the late game clock management, I think you're absolutely right. You have to give Russell Wilson full control of that when it comes to getting into those late game situations, because like you said, I was saying me and him were, talking back and forth throughout this entire game. And once that last series got into effect there, I explained to him, hey, look at the clock here. I mean, the clock's running. And I'm like, ooh, I mean, they wasted.
That was even before they even were going to consider the field goal. It was the whole.
Yes. As they were getting into that type of situation, I'm like, man, they just wasted 20 seconds off the clock there when they could have ran another play. They could have done something else other than, what they put themselves on. The Denver Broncos shot themselves in the foot in that current situation. They weren't mentally prepared for that type of late game situation, in my personal opinion.
That's what I was thinking. I think they were so arrogantly, in their mind, they were going to just like walk all over Seattle. I don't know why they thought that, but I don't think they envisioned themselves having to be in a clock management situation. And now that they've realized they can't squander that opportunity, that the proper thing to do is you got to I don't care who the quarterback is. I just think that should be the guy's job, and then he determines to spike the ball, to call the timeout, and then, we'll go talk first and foremost. I mean, he's the one out on the field. He's quarterbacking, as they say, he's quarterbacking the situation. So, Russell Wilson has to, and I don't see Russell Wilson turning that opportunity down or saying, I don't want it. I think that he would embrace that. So that should be able to be taken care of, remedy. And then obviously if it gets bungled up, it's like, Wilson's got to figure it out, one way or the other.
Yeah, because you told me something that really stuck out to me when the game was over and when we've been communicating back and forth throughout the week. I think the Broncos went in there thinking they were the Rams, the Buccaneers, the Chiefs, the Steelers, the Ravens, the Bills, all the above, the Colts to some degree. They went in there with that mindset of, I don't think they were really prepared for what Seattle was gonna bring back to them. I didn't think they were gonna say, well, I didn't think they were gonna think that the Seattle Seahawks were gonna have a counter punch to what Denver had. And I found that very intriguing on your part, because you were saying that, and you and Rich Eisen were the only people on this planet that were, or in the Denver Broncos community and
outside the Seattle community.
Yes, outside the
Seahawks community.
Out of the Seahawks community, where you two were the only people that were saying that Seattle was going to win this game in a close game. I was saying that the Denver Broncos were going to win this game close with the help of the refs, and that almost happened. It was a very close margin of that happening, but you absolutely hit the nail on the head. That the Denver Broncos and that organization, and this is why my partner and I are so hell bent on holding this organization accountable, is because they are not the Buccaneers. They're not the Rams. They're not the Ravens. They're not the Steelers. They're not the Patriots, even to some degree with that player personnel. They're not even on the same level of the Chiefs, the Chargers, and even people in their own division, even the Raiders. So when me and him talk about a 53-man roster, we talk about player personnel. We don't obsess over princess quarterbacks, and we don't obsess over these, receivers and corners and everything. Our channels are built on trench play, and we're very, very hell bent on trench play and player personnel that actually knows their job assignments, and they're very good. So when you talk about the Seattle Seahawks going into that game, I believe the Denver Broncos really didn't take the Seahawks seriously, in my personal opinion, and that bit them in the ass at the end of the game, because they weren't mentally prepared, and they weren't prepared to go into a situation like that, because they thought they were going to blow the Seahawks out. And I think that's a good point on your part as well.
That's why I just I didn't see that. And they, it wasn't logical. And I want to address, cause this will get us into the Texans, this nonsense that, somehow that the Seahawks were shut down in the second half. That's inaccurate. It's inaccurate in this way. And it goes into this firing of Hackett nonsense. There's a lot of nonsense going on out there about, to be the greatest show on turf, just throwing bombs all over the place. And that would be a huge mistake. I will concede that, because Judy he was playing against a rookie, and he was playing extremely soft, almost like his college days, that maybe you could have went there a little bit more. I'll concede into that. But by and large, what the Hackett was able to do in the second half, especially, was he just in the third quarter, his offense took a drive. It went it went over half the third quarter. That kept Seattle, first of all, off the field. And once Seattle got on the field in the third quarter, they had no problem driving, but this is what they did and what they didn't do both. In the first half, they were utilizing their tight ends in a way they stopped doing in the second half. because, I guess this may be a little bit arrogance, but they did have it correct. They felt there was no way that if all else failed, they were going to go with Metcalf. They were going to go and just one-on-one with certain, because he wasn't getting any help. They couldn't help because they went based on all the mistakes they were making defensively in the first half against the Seattle Seahawks. They did more of a man up as there was a hat on a hat. So Surtain was just one-on-one with Metcalf. And if you go back and watch the film, it didn't matter. He just stood there. Okay, Surtain's standing next to me. Just go ahead and throw the ball. He'd catch it. They were just driving down. Now, Seattle got a little arrogant. Metcalf in particular got arrogant. And he screwed up a scoring opportunity for them in that third quarter when he's holding the ball like that. Gregory, who hadn't done anything. As a matter of fact, both rookies, Lucas and Cross, had canceled him out. He was a non-factor as far as an edge rusher is concerned. He has to hit that ball out of Metcalf. I mean, that's just eye candy to any, that's just eye candy to any defender. If he doesn't hit that ball, he's fired. He's got to get fired. And speaking of fired, Singleton got fired, I believe, is because he miffed on a sure sack that led to a touchdown. Was the first touchdown. But I want to say this: if you're going to fire Singleton, which we did, we were like, "What are you doing, bringing this guy in?" Again, no. Was anybody else saying that? I don't think so, right?
No one was saying that.
Of course they don't. Justin Simmons, and I was going to do a video. I decided not because what I thought was his fault. Part of his fault didn't turn out to be. It was the second touchdown. But I want to talk about, the totality of the game. He sucked. I mean, I'm sick of this 20 yards off stuff. And if I'm, I just think that Stearns is going to be there. I think that's an upgrade right there. I just want to talk about that play because I was going to show a video of the Texans, who I was just doing film on, playing the role of Justin Simmons and getting it right, where you're like the sweeper in a soccer, where, you see the running back coming in and you're going to meet this guy, hit him. Simmons, as usual, not only takes a bad angle, he hesitates, and it turns into one of their biggest runs. And that was all on Simmons. And if you're going to fire Singleton, I'm just wondering because it was a bad game. If you go back and you watch that with Simmons from the start of the whistle to the end of the game, he played like shit. It's in the video. And I was just wondering, and I know it's wishful thinking, and I'm sure it's not accurate, but I was wondering if they actually benched him. Because, he sucked. He really sucked out there. But he probably got an injury going up to the podium. He strained his hip going up that step up to the podium, I guess. But, it was frustrating. So between Metcalf's fuck up, they had absolutely no problem driving. Metcalf's fuck up and Chubb actually winning out on Cross at the end there. And the biggest thing was the offense, the Broncos offense, staying on the field, driving, taking time off the clock. That drove everybody crazy, but it worked great in the third quarter because, they didn't even see the field till, I think it was 6 minutes and some odd seconds, if I remember right.
Correct.
So that was really the nail in the coffin. And plus, they got away from that tight end, and that could segue us into the Texans. They didn't use Noah Fant correctly. They did on a couple of plays, and they were big-time successful plays, and then they got away from that.
Correct.
And I get it. They had no, Surtain in particular, had no answer for Metcalf, and this is going to come up. Like I said, if Surtain was on another team and Patrick was healthy, I would absolutely put Patrick right on Surtain. And it's the same thing. Patrick could just do a little hook route or whatever, just go out there, hey, hi, hoo-hoo. And he'd just go up and get it. And Surtain, you ain't gonna be, what are you gonna do, dude? That's what he basically told Surtain. And they told him by showing on the field, not running his mouth, but showing him on the field, running, doing the walk on the field.
Correct. I want to circle back to Justin Simmons just real quick. Go ahead. You got something?
Go,
okay.
Go.
All right. I just wanted to circle back to Justin Simmons because I've been saying this for years. I don't think I'm with the sports writers, and when they say that he's a top 3 safety, that's absurd to me, because when I watch the film and when I watch the All 22, and I encourage everyone to go look at it because it shows things that you won't see from a condensed game, or, the game when you're watching it live, when it's happening picture by picture. But when you go back and watch the film review, I mean, this guy, I think he's worse than last year at one game. I mean, there were plays in that game where I'm just scratching my head, and it's just like, it looks like he's gotten a lot worse than what he was last year. And that's concerning to me, because you allocated all this money to a guy that's good on the podium, that is a good man off the field, but doesn't show up on game day. I mean, we saw that with the Dallas Cowboys practice feed. I mean, we didn't need to go to Denver, Colorado and be at training camp. Me and him were watching the Dallas Cowboys feed, because they're actually showing the Denver Broncos defense against the Cowboys first string offense. So we were seeing things well before the season even started. We've been seeing things for years and years and years. And to give you guys a little tidbit, this guy really, he didn't think Justin Simmons was good, but he's like, he's okay. I said to this guy, please go take a look at him, because to me, he is not a top 5 safety in this league. He's not even a top 3 safety in this league. And there were plays in the Seahawks game specifically where the first play of the game, it was one of the first plays of the game where I believe it was Tyler Lockett or DK Metcalf does a hook route on Surtain. And then there's Justin Simmons just late to the party because he doesn't have the makeup speed to make a play on that football, when it's just, it was a pickable ball. It was a pickable ball. It was an interception ball that Justin Simmons or another safety could have made. But Justin Simmons doesn't have the skill set nor the ability to make that type of play to warrant the type of contract that he warranted. And that is a guy that's a paper tiger created by John Elway himself, in my personal opinion. I just don't think he's a top 5 safety in this league.
He's not. Everybody in the NFL knows that.
I'm really getting sick of the hype around this guy, because you gave this guy 4 years, $61 million for being good on the podium. I mean, I'd rather go get a guy like Jesse Bates. Cincinnati Bengal fans, you can have him. I will take Jesse Bates 10 times out of 10. This guy, Jesse Bates, was making plays against the Steelers, and Mika Fitzpatrick on the other side. They were having a great battle, and I loved watching that game, because Fitzpatrick was making plays. Jesse Bates was making plays late in the game. They were making plays that Justin Simmons wish he could have made in his entire career.
Well, I'm telling you, I'd rather have Stearns back there than Justin Simmons. Just truthfully, I'd rather have. Remember when he was in the game last year, he baited that
with the Dallas Cowboys game where he instinctually read the play. It was just it looked so easy to him. It was so fluid. You don't get
last year's game against Dallas.
Yeah, Cowboys game from last year where he made an unbelievable interception, and it just came to him. He was so fluid in that aspect. I'm just like, why can't we have that on a more consistent basis? I don't get it. I don't get the mindset that's over there in Death Valley right now, because it blows my mind that they continue to push out players like Baron Browning, for instance, who didn't do anything against the Cowboys, and he hasn't done anything in the preseason outside a couple plays here and there. And then you get rid of Singleton, where me and you this offseason, and I did film review on him, and it's on his channel. I'm doing film review, and like, this guy sucks. This guy isn't the type of player that you want to put next to a guy like Baron Browning at the time. You should have kept Kenny Young, and you should have kept Baron Browning, and have Jonas Griffith develop under those two to eventually take over for Kenny Young. That's how I would have done it, but the Denver Broncos don't value middle linebacker play anymore. They haven't had a good linebacker core since Danny Trevathan and Brandon Marshall during that Super Bowl 50 run, and that's sad.
Well, I think
last year they did have it last year.
I think that showed itself in the first half when Seattle was utilizing those tight ends and exploiting the linebacking. Now, they got away from that in the second half. They didn't do that, but that's something the Texans that's something the Texans are going to key on because they really utilize their tight ends. But I wanted to say that I have two clips. I have, when I was doing the Texans film, I have a safety of theirs. I don't even know the guy's name, but he plays Justin Simmons' position at safety. Exactly the same thing.
I believe his name is Jalen Petrie. He's the
Okay.
safety. I just wanted to put a name out there. Sorry.
I don't know if it's him or not, but he's in the position of where he's playing Simmons' position. There's a running play. He immediately, without hesitation, just goes in like a rocket. But this guy's got to go through a blocker, sheds the blocker, and makes the tackle at the line of scrimmage. I got the second clip of Justin Simmons, a wide open hole. The guy hesitates, gets a bad angle, and it's off to the races for this guy. It's like, I don't know, 40-yard run or something like that. And that was all on Justin Simmons. All of it.
You bring up a great point with that one play with Simmons. You said he hesitates. The reason I think he hesitates is because he knows he doesn't have the skill set to make that play. So he has to I don't think he believes in himself. He believes in himself off the field, but on the field, I think he knows in his head that he can't make the plays like that guy from the Texans made, Jesse Bates makes on a consistent basis, Mika Fitzpatrick made against the Bengals this past weekend and does on a consistent basis, Jamal Adams, who was making plays before he got hurt in the game, and he's out for the season. That just dropped. That's breaking news for Seattle fans if they watch this video. But I'm just saying, to me, the reason he hesitates is because I don't think he believes in his skill set, because I don't think he has the skill set to make the plays like that guy with the Texans can make.
Or he's worried about his paycheck. I don't know if he gets injured, he gets
worried about his paycheck. I just don't think he has the skill set to make that play.
No, he does. I mean, it's all over the field. So, I'm sorry we got to talk about this guy, but it's a financial just boondoggle. It's hurting the Broncos on the field.
And this guy wanted Marcus Williams that went over from the Saints. He was a product of that developmental system. He went over to the Ravens, the Baltimore Ravens. I think they have the best secondary in football. There's nothing comparable to that. So I wanted Marcus Williams over Justin Simmons because Marcus Williams makes plays on the field and he's a very good safety in this league. He's a very underrated safety in this league. I would take him 10 times out of 10.
I wanted him. Yeah, I know. And can't have that
for top flight money at the time too. When he was a free agent. So,
well, I'm going to speak as myself being a fan, just myself. Okay. I remember watching the Denver Broncos and Wade Phillips calling Dennis Smith at home, who is 3/4 into the season. Dennis Smith retired. He's sitting on his couch. Okay. And Wade Phillips gives him a call. He said, man, I got to get you to come in here. Yeah, sure, fine. He's playing lights out. It isn't even comparable, Justin Simmons. And a guy who was sitting on his couch for 3/4 of a season comes in and plays like all pro, for real all pro, not sports writer all pro. There's a difference between real and sports writer, okay? This guy's fucking, he's kicking ass and taking names for the rest of the year. Just right off the street. No preseason, no reps. This guy comes in and he's kicking ass. You can't get this guy. See, as a fan, it frustrates because fans, believe it or not, they wouldn't tolerate this shit for a second. They would throw batteries, and I'm not encouraging to throw batteries at players, but Bronco fans back in the day would not take crap. And they wouldn't what's going on now would never have been tolerated. So as a fan, I'm from that culture, okay? So it just frustrates me when I'm breaking down film. It's just like, my God, this is just.
It's bad. It's bad. It's bad out. It's bad.
So the first half, there were plenty of assignment gap problems for the Broncos. I mean, I think, and I blame the defensive coordinator on that. Then finally in the second half, they were putting hats on hats. But the thing was, it was just basically setting out a couple of receivers, maybe 3 receivers. They weren't doing the tight end thing. because they just felt, well, if all else fails, we're just going to throw it to Metcalf on every third down, man. Boom, right there. Yep, got it, no problem. But knucklehead Metcalf, did that number, and that that's the way arrogance leads to problems. When you start getting arrogant.
What did I say about my pre-draft process with Surtain? What did I say was one of his biggest weaknesses?
Stiff. You said he's a stiff.
He's a very stiff corner who doesn't have good hit-to-hit fluidity, and he struggles with underneath routes. And what did Seattle do throughout this game with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett? They were running underneath routes with not Surtain, my apologies, with DK Metcalf. And I said coming out in the pre-draft process, I like Patrick Surtain. If he uses the boundary to his advantage, he's a very good corner in this league. But I don't want to hear the comparisons that he's a Champ Bailey 2.0. I don't want to hear that comparison ever again. He is, to me, if I had to put a comparison on Patrick Surtain, and this isn't disrespect because he was a very good corner for years, is Antonio Cromartie, who was a very lengthy, stiff corner who used the boundaries to his advantage. He played for the Cardinals. I believe he played for the Patriots. He played for the Seahawks. He was a very, very, very good corner in this league. But don't give me that crap that Patrick Surtain is the next Champ Bailey, because Champ Bailey played all positions in that backfield. He played left, right, slot. He played all over the football field. He didn't play just one or two sides like Surtain does on the boundary. He played all left, right, slot. So I don't want to hear that comparison anymore. I'm tired of the excuses for Justin Simmons, Randy Gregory, Draymond Jones, who didn't do anything in this game once again, and they want to pay him the bank load like Aaron Donald. I don't want to hear any more excuses.
Well,
and
the whole Browning experiment.
Browning experiment is another colossal failure that me and this guy have been pounding the table, showed film on this guy who can't play that position at all. And he's a better inside linebacker than an outside linebacker.
I want to address that because, when I was watching that first half, when they were, the Seahawks were utilizing the double tight ends, Fant and that other guy, they didn't have an answer in the linebacking core for that. And everybody was out of position with their assignment, I guess is the best way to put it. People just all of a sudden, Seattle Seahawks people just all open and everything because they did not have an answer for that. And that addresses taking Browning and Kenny Young out of that equation. And this can segue us into the Texans because the Texans don't have a Metcalf. They'll just, they don't really have a Metcalf. Okay. So what they were doing in the second half, see how but what they do have is they have tight ends, right? You want to talk about the Texans tight ends really quick and how this is going to be an interesting matchup. Those tight ends with this defense.
Okay, so the tight ends for the Houston Texans, they use them in a very creative way. And what I really found interesting about this is guys like OJ Howard and Brevin Jordan are like your Noah Fant, Albert O last year. But the difference between those two and these two in today's NFL in this year's 2022 season is the Houston Texans really use them creatively once they get down into the red zone. I mean, the plays with OJ Howard and how they would manipulate him blocking, send him up seams, have him do post routes, have him do drag routes, have him do curl routes in the middle of the field. It was very, very intriguing because they actually know how to use tight ends in Houston, and they use them to block too. They're not just used for pass catching threats. They're also used to help block and be creative blockers in that backfield for those running backs with the Houston Texans.
So I think one thing Seattle did show teams like the Texans, for instance, how to utilize your tight ends against that defense of Denver's. I think that's going to be a very strong, if the offensive coordinator can dial it in, I think that could really be an interesting matchup for the Texans. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree.
So anyway, getting into the Texans, I really, again, like what Hackett is doing, and I would like to see that continue with the Texans.
Yep.
keep the offense on the field, keep their offense off the field. I think there's going to be openings for excuse me. There's going to be openings for receivers. I think if they do the blocking schemes the same way, that would help them out a lot with Texas defensive line, front seven. I don't want to see what they got to not listen to the toxicity out there.
Yeah.
That'll get them in a lot of trouble. This isn't the Rams. This isn't the greatest show on turf. We don't even have the
player personnel
to run that kind of a thing. It's built to do what they were doing. You know, maybe it evolves over time. That's a different story. But this team was built to be more like a Scangarello type, Mike Munchak kind of thing. That's what you got. You know, I don't know. I think when the national media started getting involved, I think people just have fantasies. And I said that going into that last game. But I think that you know, the problems that they had are easily fixable problems. You know, I still don't trust Gordon. I like Boone, you know, personally. But I'd like to see him mix it up. I think they could even to make the Kool-Aid crowd happy. I think they could throw it a little bit more on that Texas team. You watched a lot of film, a hell of a lot more than I did. So Broncos offensively and Texans defensively, what do you got?
Okay, so Broncos offensively, I agree with everything you just said. I would like to see more KJ Hamler in this game, but I also have to understand that he's coming off of an ACL injury, so they're slowly integrating him back into the game flow. I would love to see them use Jerry Jeudy. I'd love to see them use Jerry Jeudy like they did last week. I would love to see them use him more on a Joker type role. Use Justin Simmons on that boundary, and I would really like to see the Denver Broncos.
You mean not Justin Simmons?
Cortland Sutton.
Yes. Yeah.
I know everything at once. But anyway, I would like to see the Denver Broncos under Nathaniel Hackett use that running game creatively again, like they did against Seattle, where they were pulling the guards. They had a bunch of tight end sets, use Andrew Beck as a blocker, as a pass catcher, like the Kyle Juszczyk with the San Francisco 49ers, who I believe is the best fullback in the game. And then you can have these receivers come down and you do those crackback blocks. I do not want to see Nathaniel Hackett use like a guy like Jerry Jeudy on a crackback block, because he's not known for his blocking. And again, with Nathaniel Hackett
for Hamler,
I would like to see them use Tyreek Cleveland and, you know, their tight ends more. I believe Tyreek Cleveland is a very good blocking receiver, so I'd like to see them integrate him into that role. Texans defensively, they're very good at stopping the run. They are predicated on stopping the run. They're going to take away that strength, or supposedly strength, for the Denver Broncos, which I believe is the strength of the team, which is running the football. Here's the deal with the Nathaniel Hackett side of things. You're not going to line up against this Texans team and run it for, you know, so many yards. You need to be creative like you were last week running against this Texans defense. You have to be creative in your running sets. What do I mean by being creative in your running sets? Being creative in your running sets means crackback blocks, pull, stretch plays, having receivers come down and do crackback blocks, using tight ends on the move to get to the second level and get people. You have to be able to be creative and start establishing that run. That is what San Francisco 49ers do so exceptionally well, is they know that they can run on you, but they're very creative in running the football. That is their strength. Nathaniel Hackett needs to take a page of what he did last week.
Yep.
And establish that in this game, because if you're going to listen to the toxicity and throw it 20 plus yards downfield, that is going to play exactly into the Houston Texans' hands. You need to continue to develop these players and run that Mike Munchak, Rich Scangarello type offense for the Denver Broncos. Now the Houston Texans, I know you want to say something. Do you want to say something before I get into?
Okay. Yes. I think that if you use the approach that we're talking about, I think those 20+ yard passes are definitely going to be there for you. But you got to do it where you're not.
That's going to set up those 20+ yard plays downfield when they're going to do those bootleg actions. And I really want to see Russell Wilson continue to involve with being a pocket passer that gets the ball out quick, because that's something that I found disheartening last week. Is he didn't. I get it. It's the offense, but I would really love to see Nathaniel Hackett use him more. You can use the play action. That's not what I'm saying, but don't have him roll out, hold the ball for 2 or 3 seconds, and run and get a 1 yard gain or get a sack. I'd really love to see them get creative in that aspect off the play action pass, get those 20+ yards downfield, but keep him into that pocket where he can establish, where he can read the field and throw the football. That's what I want out of.
There's just a big problem with all that.
Your offensive line isn't.
The offensive line just isn't built.
I know. I would really love to see that, though. But again, I understand where you're coming from.
But I agree. They should at least try to get some of that in. Try to get that pocket.
Throw it 20+ yards down
pocket.
Well, establish the pocket, but you don't need to throw it 20+ yards. You can do drag routes. You can do 5-yard out routes. You can, and I want to see them continuing to get those quick passes, like those short to intermediate passes to keep
stay out on the field. Yep, stay out on the field.
Yes, absolutely. I really love to see that. Do you have anything else before I get into the Texans defense?
No, go ahead.
Okay. All right. So the Texans defense is very good at stopping the run. The Texans defense, run stuffing ability wise, they're a very fast unit when it comes to stopping the run. They are very fast coming up and hitting you. I believe their linebackers, sideline to sideline wise and coming up and going forward in those A and B gaps, I think might present a problem for the Denver Broncos. Nathaniel Hackett needs to find a way to get around that. And I hope to God that he uses the running game creatively, because that's going to set up those linebackers to stay in their sets, not come up forward and shoot those A and B gaps, because the Texans linebackers are very good at doing that.
Now, I did see that Indianapolis was able to get a few big run plays on him.
Yes, because they were establishing that run, though. They were using that run creatively. They weren't just saying, oh, we're just going to run it right at Roy Lopez and Malik Collins. No, we're going to pull Quentin Nelson. We're going to pull our tackles. We're going to pull the tight ends that set up those running plays that you're talking about. Because when you get into that film review, you see the Indianapolis Colts start to beat themselves, running it right up the gut, and that gave the linebackers every opportunity to come up in those A and B gaps and stop Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah. So go ahead.
The front seven for the Texans, they rotate them in and out. So you're not going to see the same front seven as you're going to see throughout the entire game. They're going to give you multiple looks on that defensive line. The defensive line isn't very good at the pass rush, but going against the Broncos offense, they might look a little bit better going against that Colts offensive line, who's one.
Yeah.
So we got to keep that in mind as well.
Yeah.
They like to the Texans. One thing I found very, very interesting is, and I don't know if you saw this, when they would run those single high looks with a single safety, they would go to that man-to-man coverage. When they would go to the 2 high looks, they would play off coverage. But the problem with the Houston Texans, and this might go into their hands here, is the Denver Broncos cannot go into this game and saying, okay, we're going to stick to this play. Because the Texans, what they do exceptionally well is they run a Tampa 2 type cover 3, cover 6 system. What do I mean by that? So, for instance, you're going up to the line of scrimmage, you're Russell Wilson, and you see a certain look right before you snap the ball. They're going to make you think that they're running that play, but once that ball is snapped, just a second or two before, they switch their coverages to try and bait you into a throw that they can pick off and get a turnover from. So you've got to be very aware of that type of system that you're going against with the Tampa 2. Lovie Smith, who's a very good defensive coordinator, very good head coach for the Bears back in the day. He knows defensive ball, and that could present some problems for the Denver Broncos.
Yeah. Yes.
Sorry, I went off a rant there. I'm
trying to think about other. I notice they play sometimes a little soft in their coverage.
Yeah,
A little softer than I would actually like. Um,
that's understandable.
this is where I think Jerry Jeudy could kind of have what he had, maybe not on it as a consistent basis, but I think that that softness plays well for him. That tight coverage thing in him don't really mesh, but this could be something that he could exploit.
He's going to get looks for sure against that defense. You're absolutely right. They play soft coverage, but I'm telling you, once they go to that single high look, you're going to see it. Everyone, I encourage you to get the all 22 on NFL Plus because they have revamped it, and I really liked what they've done with it. I encourage everyone to go get it. You can get it for $79 a year. I do it $9.99 a month to get the all 22 access. But here's something that when you get the all 22, you see how they switch the coverages right before that play snap. So Russell Wilson out there is going to have to be able to read that type of defense once that ball snapped, because they're not going to be in the same defensive look that they're going to start off with. They're going to switch it on you and try and bait you into a turnover type throw, an interception type throw.
I think that's going to be very interesting to watch, actually.
Correct. Yep.
And it's going to be interesting to see how Russell Wilson makes those adjustments himself.
I really do that. Yep.
Yeah. So anything else on the defense?
Nope. That's it for me, really.
Offensively, I noticed that their quarterback that they have, we'll start with the quarterback. Everybody likes talking about that, is very capable. I do not see our defensive line really posing that much of a problem. What do you think?
Well, Davis Mills has something that I believe he has over Geno Smith. Geno Smith had the accuracy, but I think the thing with Davis Mills is he has the quick release ability.
Well, I was saying the accuracy. He once he got warmed up, he was very accurate.
He was very accurate, but you saw that quick release. You saw that Tom Brady ball, the Tom Brady quick release
ball. Brady ball.
I thought the offensive line for the Texans was very good. I thought they held up pretty dang well against a very good front seven with the Indianapolis Colts. Kenyon Green, Justin Britt, and AJ Gain are their interiors. I believe that's the strength of their offensive line. They're going to be able to. They run a lot of I formation, and they're going to do a lot of play action off of that. Brandon Cooks is a very good underneath receiver. He's a very speedy receiver, so that might cause problems for not Justin Simmons. He's out. Patrick Surtain, because he does struggle against speedy receivers. We saw that last year with the Ravens and the other teams. But the Houston Texans like to run a lot of I formation. They like to do a lot of 6 wide receiver sets. They use their tight ends in the red zone. That is very effective. Their offensive line, I think their offensive line, in my personal opinion, is a little bit better than the Seattle Seahawks offensive line because they got Laramie Tunsil, who is a very good pass blocking left tackle, who is one of the best in the league. Kenyon Green has been shown great progress. He was a rookie out of Texas A&M. Justin Britt, AJ Gain, and Tyus Howard. I think Tyus Howard is a poor man's version of Abraham Lucas. So I don't see this defensive line for the Denver Broncos getting home consistently as I saw on film. I might be wrong, but what I saw on film was they use their offensive line in a creative way, and their fullback too, in a creative way.
What I'm very interested to see from the Texans on offense is their tight ends.
Yep.
Because the Denver Broncos honestly, I don't think that whole first half they had an answer for the tight end situation that was going on, but there was really no play design in the second half with those tight ends. But so in the first half, you saw the 2 tight ends and they just couldn't get they couldn't get coverage. They couldn't figure out assignments. It really threw that defense off. So do you think that the offensive coordinator for the Texans he's going to see that?
Yes. What I think you're going to get is I think the Texans are going to try and run the ball in this game. I think they're going to try their interior offensive line is a very physical unit. They are very, very physical. When they get them on the move, that's when their weaknesses start to show up a little bit. You saw the center, Justin Britt, who I think is a more straight line center. He cannot get to the second level at all. So with the Texans, I think what you're going to see is I think you're going to get a lot of I formation against the Denver Broncos, play action off of that, and I think they're going to use their tight ends in a creative way in this game. Keep your eye on Brandon Cooks, though, because that guy's a very good receiver in this league. Just keep an eye out on him in this game.
Yes, yes.
He's very shifty.
Yes. So how about the tackles? We had two rookies. Basically, they took Gregory all the way out, and finally Chubb. Matter of fact, the Texans have a guy 55 on their defense.
Hughes.
Yeah, he seems pretty good.
He's a veteran in this league. To get back to their defense, they like to use the pinch method. What's the pinch method? They like to line up their 5-tech. They run a 4-3 Tampa 2 defense. They like to use their 5-tech defensive end as a Y technique and pinch him, make the quarterback go into their guys like a Malik Collins and a Roy Lopez on that D line. So they use the pinch method, which if you have good guys that can pinch the tackles, that could work out in your favor. I look more into the interior than the edges. But that's
yeah, me too. If you have that and you have that push up the middle on that,
dangerous. You're very dangerous.
Yes, you need that push up the middle in this NFL this day and age. So we're back to the offense, or excuse me, back for the offense, the Texans, and the defense for the Broncos. So I was saying that the tackles. How does Chubb? Because it seems like Chubb's their best edge rusher.
I would put Bradley Chubb on Titus Howard, just because I think that he can have more success with his bull rush method on Titus Howard. I think Laramie Tunsil is just one of those guys that he's just whoever's on him, he's going to get neutralized. If you put Randy Gregory on him, it wouldn't worry me as an offense coordinator, Pep Hamilton for the Houston Texans. So Randy Gregory is just, I don't know, $70 million for a guy got one play. I can't.
Well, I'm just saying they're going to be going up against veterans though on the edges. They're going to be going.
They've been around the league. They're not going against rookie left or right tackles. They're going against Laramie Tunsil, who I believe is one of the best pass blocking left tackles in the league. He might be the best in the league. He's up. He's up there.
Okay. Real deal there. So
Yep.
So it'll be because it's really didn't do anything except that when Chubb started to get the better of Cross. Who's learning? He'll probably be and this is probably part of his growing.
And that's going to be him, like you said, that's going to benefit a guy like Charles Cross going forward into his career. He's going to take what he saw, look at the film, try and get better, because for 3.5 quarters, he was kicking ass. I mean,
he was unstoppable.
It wasn't even compared.
Yeah. So I just see that it's Mills the quarterback. Mills.
Correct. Yep. David Mills.
I just see that he will have time to make his throws. I just believe he'll have time, and he throws quick anyway.
I mean, but you saw in the game he did have time to make throws against that good front seven for the Colts. So we're not. This isn't the Rams front seven that we're going.
Tampa. No.
The Houston Texans have nothing to worry about from the front seven for the Denver Broncos.
Yes, and Mills is an accurate, capable quarterback. So. Again, like I said, I'd like to see the Broncos keep their offense on the field, chewing up yards, and of course, eliminating the mistakes, scoring, and just keep and making Mills and that offense have to, finally get off the bench and get things going. You know what I'm saying? Maybe from behind.
Well, I think one thing that we could talk, we are actually excited to talk about for this defense is, I really want to see what Chad Stearns does at that back end.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Justin Simmons spot. I really want to see
I would absolutely love that. Yeah, that would be great.
So I mean, Rex Burkhead and Damian Pierce are their running backs. Their 1-2 punch. When you see Rex Burkhead, most likely it's going to be a pass. When you see Dameon Pierce, it's most likely going to be a run. Dameon Pierce is no joke. He's a poor man's Javonte Williams. So just keep an eye out on these running backs and how they use them, because they use them in they use him in passing situations, especially Rex Burkhead. Rex Burkhead is very good at catching the ball out of the backfield. You can use him on a Texas route. You can line him out in the slot. He's kind of like your Mike Boone for the Denver Broncos, but the Denver Broncos unfortunately have Melvin Gordon on this contract, and not a really big fan of him and never have. So, it's going to be a game where I think it's going to come down to which team is going to beat themselves. I think I have the Denver Broncos winning this game just due to the fact they're at home. Number two, I think that the Texans are still in that rebuilding phase. I'm not saying that the Texans are a slouch. I think that this game is going to be a lot closer than people think it's going to be.
It's not going to be a 40-point blowout.
It's not going to be a blowout like people are making it out to be, like they did with the Seahawks, and look how that turned out. So I don't think you should sleep on this team. They're very capable of beating you. They tied with the Colts. I mean, the Colts are a playoff team. Let's not get that out of our minds here. But I think the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, more so. Yeah.
I think the Denver Broncos offense and Nathaniel Hackett, and I hope that he sticks with this. If he could stick and be creative, I think offensively in the running game, I think that can lift the Denver Broncos over the finish line enough. Like you said, keep them on the field, long drives. Well, I gotta wait and see, but I have the Denver Broncos in a close game in Mile High, in my personal opinion.
Well, this is how I look at it. I think the game plans for both offenses are the same.
Correct.
I think if you're the Texans, you're going to want to stay on the field as long as you can. Keep Russell Wilson and the offense off that field. This is barring they do what they did in Seattle, which I believe they're going to do. I don't think they're going to listen to the toxicity. Just listening to what they're saying, they felt very, very confident in what they were doing. The yardage was there. Speed, that's their playmaking, converting the third downs, keeping the chains going, staying out on the field. They were all happy with the play design, everything. They just needed to clean the mistakes up. Okay. On offense, I think they have a lot of work on defense to do, but clean up some mistakes on offense. So if you're the Texans, you're going to want to stay out on the field as much as possible. You want to, like you said, you want to really get that running game. You also want to get that mixed tight end thing going. And I think that you're going to eye a home run ball once in a while, or a big play once in a while, and all that too. Ideally is if you can get the Denver Broncos not to be on the field and them being the ones that keep you off the field and stopping you from getting established. That's how I could see things topsy-turvy in Denver's favor. If the Texans can keep them off the field, they're not getting the kind of reps they want to get in, then it could be a whole lot closer game than what Bronco fans are going to be comfortable with. The other way, if the flips the other way, if the Broncos are on the field a lot, I think they'll score. And I mean, to leave, I think if they're the ones that are on, and I think if it's the Texans having to make up and having to get into rhythm, it may, be a little more lopsided in Denver's favor. But
I can see it.
If again, like I said, if the Texans can stay out on that field and score and make it like where Russell Wilson and them, they can't get into that rhythm, that this could be a close game to the, getting to the bitter end. But I also, yes, absolutely have the Denver Broncos winning this game. Yes.
Well, the flip side on that real quick before we end this, the reason I think it's going to be a close game is because the Texans defense is very, very, very good at stopping the run. And I'm not saying Denver's front seven isn't, but you were telling me throughout this game in Seattle, it's like, oh, wow, they're looking good at stopping the run. And then you saw those creases start to slowly but surely open.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that this game is going to be close is because the Texans defense is built on stopping the run. They're not very built on stopping the pass, but they're very built up front with those fast linebackers that come down and that clog those A and B gaps. Nathaniel Hackett needs to be creative in running the football, because if he's just going to be so basic in running the football, that's going to play in the Texans' hands, in my opinion.
I agree. If they don't get anything going in the running game, that could bite him in the ass too. Oh, well, just throw the ball. No.
You gotta set up those throws. You have to set them up.
Yeah.
You can't just be like, oh, we're gonna be at an empty set and we're gonna throw the football. No, you have to.
That's a really good point, because I thought the Broncos were getting really good and creative with their running game and utilizing the offensive line in those schemes, and I think that's really what helped them. They were building off of that. I noticed that in the film too.
Yep, that set up in those how creative he was with that offensive line and that running game. That set up those passing plays for Wilson. That set up those passing plays for a guy like Jerry Jeudy. That set it up. You have to continue to stick with the run. The running game is so important to an offense, because here's why. Because if you can get the defense to suck up on a running play, you can hit people. You can do the Mike Shanahan, Kyle Shanahan thing, or you can do play action off the best. You'll have receivers open all day long, because you're going to have those linebackers and that secondary wanting to come up and stop the run. You can do a 20-yard over route over those linebackers, and then bam. And that's what I'm hoping from Hackett. I don't want you to do empty sets with Wilson, 6 wide receiver sets, and throw it 20+ yards. You need to stick to the running game that can set up those passing lanes.
Yes, I'm with you 100% on that. Do not listen to the toxicity. If you want to run a couple plays like that once in a while, I'm okay. Don't make that the main game plan, though.
Don't make that your identity. Don't make that your identity, because
exactly.
The identity that the Denver Broncos need to stick to is what we saw on Monday night.
Offensively.
Yep. Offensively. Defensively, there's no identity. There's nothing to take away there. Their defense sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I think if you're the Texans, that's your hope right there, that your own defense. But the fact is that you're not going to be intimidated as an offense by Denver's defense. It's just the way it is.
You shouldn't be.
No, you shouldn't be at all. You shouldn't be. But I will say this. I think Stearns is a better safety than Justin Simmons. You're not.
I concur. Yep.
He flows faster. The only problem is hopefully he looks at film of other safeties and he hasn't been
getting advice from Simmons.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, that player development, lack thereof. Well, do you have anything else?
That's it on my side.
Me too. I got work to do.
Not shocking.
Yeah, got to get it done.
All right.
Yep. We'll see you around. And I guess the game's on Sunday, obviously, right?
Sunday,
yeah. I'll be able to watch that too, and then we'll be able to talk about it.
Awesome.
All right.
Take care. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.